Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the BOD, aka the BOD Father. I have an awesome interview set up for you guys. And happy Halloween, you ghouls and goblins out there. I have one of the actresses from the original 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Her name is Terri McMinn. And I tell you what, this is going to be an awesome interview. Terri, how are you doing?
Hi, John. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm doing great.
Now, did you ever think that you'd be part of something this huge as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Oh, no. Oh, no. As a matter of fact, I was doing other things for a long time, and, it didn't really get to be famous till years after we had made it, and then it started becoming the cult classic, that it is. So when we made it, nobody, I don't care who tells you what, they didn't know. We didn't know. It was a surprise, and it's a happy surprise. So I did other things for a long time. I kind of got out of acting in my 30s, and then I decided to, I just couldn't go to they were then started the, what do you call it? The convention circuit. And I couldn't really go because I was running my business. And so later on in 2008, they had been inviting me, and I kind of enjoyed my anonymity, to be honest with you. And I'm glad that I was ready to come out because, I couldn't have done interviews just like this one, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's fun because everybody did want to hear, so I did the Blu-ray interview, 20-minute interview, and that was where it all started.
I was talking to John Dugan, and I said, when the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, came out in '74, it really set the stage for the horror movies.
Yes, it changed everything. Nobody had ventured into chainsaws and hanging people alive on meat hooks and things like that,
Yeah.
And we had, I believe, The Exorcist, and we had Psycho, and, we had some of those. We had The Blob, we had all of Vincent Price and all that. But and Bela Lugosi and all that, but didn't, it just changed everything.
Yes, it did.
You're so right.
Yeah. And I love the black and white ones like White Zombie and Bela Lugosi and Nosferatu. I love those movies. But, like I said, when Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, it took the twisted mind of someone to do this, which is really cool. And now you've got all these remakes and stuff out. How do you feel about the remakes? Do you like them, or do you wish they would just say, nah, just leave them as is?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not huge into gore and, really hard blood, stuff. I like it more in the psychological realm, which is what I think this chainsaw is. I don't find it anything like the other ones, simply because if you think about it, first of all, we couldn't even go back and watch our reruns, our dailies at that time. There was no equipment set up for that. That didn't come until years later. The cameras and all kinds of technical things have been so advanced, So in that vein, it's different. And also because so very little is, actual cutting, blood, anything like that. Even blood is seen in the original. It's really more psychological. You imagine what that chainsaw is doing, And I think I just think that that's what sets this one apart, and that's why it's been lauded so much over time with everyone. But lots of people love the remakes, and they'll tell you, oh, number 2 is my favorite. Number 4, the last one is, So there's room for it all,
So how do you feel about the new one that's coming out, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D? Are you guys going to be part of that? Are you going to be making anything, like a cameo or anything in this? Or how
Well, actually what happened is they had cameos in Gunner and Marilyn and John are appearing in it, but then they're using footage, at least mine, and I think Bill and maybe Alan and, different people's footage that will be shown in the film. So Carl, the producer, is a wonderful fellow, really nice. I had lunch with him when I was in L.A. recently, and he's so excited. He just emailed me the trailer, and I'm just, I'm very supportive of whatever, because I know they've worked hard to, get this done. And he did talk about it. I don't know if it will happen, but he's trying to get Lionsgate to bring the entire cast for the premiere. And I asked him, actually I emailed him and I said, well, just in case, let me know what date you think it's going to be. Pam needs to get her emeralds out of the vault for the premiere. So anyway, I'm sure he laughed on that one. And we'll find out. I'll know soon if we're going to go to meet with everyone, which we always enjoy getting together. Marilyn and Alan and I just met in San Antonio and did the Horrific Film Fest. So it's fun to get to see one another, and Marilyn and I are quite close friends, so it's fun that we get to hang out.
That's awesome.
That's what we do.
That was another thing I was going to ask you. Do you still keep in touch with everybody out of the group? Because I know some has passed and some are still around, but do you try to keep in touch with everybody? Or?
Well, we're in touch. It's mainly with the rest of the cast. I mean, Alan and I sometimes get together when I'm in Austin. He has his own business there, and like I said, Marilyn and I we're very close friends. We talk all the time, but we're all in touch, mainly because of the connection with Chainsaw, and so it's good getting to see one another. In fact, what was really good is when we were doing the Q&As, which I enjoy a lot. They stimulate your other memories of what's going on. And a fan just recently brought a script, and I want to get a script because I can't even remember reading it for the first time. It was so long ago. But we do get together for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, you guys do a lot of conventions, or just a little at a time, or how do you guys normally do them?
I usually do anywhere from 4 to 5 in a year, somewhere around there, because I haven't, gotten out a lot. I do have quite a few people that try to send me their memorabilia and stuff, but, who wants to send their poster that already has 5 signatures on it? You risk losing the poster and the thing that they do. Yeah. They send them, and since I have a website that's set up, they can order pictures through me and memorabilia and stuff, so that's how I handle it. But, Gunnar probably does the most of them. He's made a career of Leatherface, and, is quite popular with the fans, and Marilyn, too. And so, we all get out there. Ed has a huge line of memorabilia that he does on eBay and on his Facebook site, and I imagine on his MySpace site, too. But I'm, now that I'm out, I'm very, I'm reachable. If people want to order things, I'm happy to do it.
Now, I got to meet Gunnar a couple years ago at Scarefest in Lexington, and I chatted with him for about 5-10 minutes because that's all the time I could get. Because at the time I was just a little, just a regular spectator, didn't do the DJ or anything like that. But the most down to earth person that I've ever met. I mean, just a really cool guy, just love to talk about horror movies. Just a really good guy.
Yeah, he does. He loves to talk about it. He's very fun. So I can understand that, people love to meet him and talk. And they get very nervous when they meet him, and when they meet all of us, but especially Leatherface,
Yeah, he's a little intimidating when you walk up to the table and he's like, is he going to kill me or what?
Exactly. No, he's very gentle and very welcoming, so people enjoy talking to him. He loves talking horror. You can talk about it with him all day long.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And sign anything that you have there to be signed. He will sign it too. That's one good thing that I will say you guys, everyone that I've met has done. No no's, just whatever you have to sign, they'll sign it.
Oh yeah. We're all very the same. You know, there isn't a person in this cast that isn't really sweet and approachable and loving with their fans. So I think that's really good. I know that sometimes fans have had problems with different, you know, people, celebrities that aren't so welcoming, and I just don't think that's really fair. You know, if you're out and you're going to these conventions and things, and you know, that's the reason that you're there is for your fans. And so if it weren't for people loving it, we wouldn't be out at all. So, you know, I'm very grateful. It's been kind of a happy thing for me to happen at this age, to come out. And I was very overwhelmed at first when I went to my first convention. It was a Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I was quite, I couldn't really wrap my brain around why they wanted to talk to me so much.
Yeah.
But they did. And they loved hearing the stories, you know, the juicy stories from behind the scenes.
Yeah, definitely. How many times did it take you guys to shoot the, I call it the meat hook scene, where you get hung up on the meat hook? How many times did they take to do that?
Well, now, the meat hook, to be honest with you, was, other than that, they had this contraption that they made that went under my costume, kind of like a parachute strapping chastity belt is what it, you know, boils down to, with some foam and big, strong hooks. That one was one of the easier, and we just did it straight through. You know, it's like a sport where you're just doing it alone, so you just got two people, it's me and Gunner, and we knew what we were doing, and they pretty much had it all set. We had talked the day before. Toby said, "Well, Terry, what do you think you'll do? You know, what do you want? What are you thinking? You know?" And I said, "Well, I think that if she's hung on the hook and it's not in the strategic place, spinal column, whatever, then I think I'd try and get off if it were me, you know, if I had any ability." And so that's the kind of the direction that we went. But to be honest with you, we didn't do a lot of takes of that. What we did a lot, and what was so difficult to shoot, was when he comes out from behind the door and runs after me and all that. Those were backbreaking. I really wasn't able to talk or walk after doing 2 full days of shooting those. So I was in a stage play at night, and I couldn't appear. I literally could not turn over in my bed for a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
You know, that Gunner weighed over 300 pounds, so fighting a 300-pound man for your life is what I was doing, you know, and I put every ounce of my soul into it. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when you guys come running out of the house and he got you, and I was like, oh my God.
I know, and you'll notice I lost my shoes at that time too. Because that was planned. I said, if I can kick off those shoes, you know, I'm kicking them off, because I don't want to have to put those on another time. They had chosen those. I brought in 4 or 5 pairs of shoes, and they chose those shoes. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
It's all right. But anyway, so that was planned. But, yeah, those were the most difficult.
How was shooting this film for you? Was it really hard, or was it pretty easy, or to get into this role?
Well, it was going into the land of the unknown, because at that time, people don't realize that they're young. Doing horror was actually considered not very prestigious. Mm-hmm. And so it was akin to doing porno at that time. You know, if you were doing, and especially something like this. I had one, Andy Devine, I was doing dinner plays with him, and he'd been very big in the 30s and 40s. He was older, you know, much older by that time. I asked him one day, I said, wow, they want me to do these pickup shots, but I have an offer to go on the road. And he said, oh, Terry, that thing's never going to come out of the can, you know. So it was it was, as a legitimate actress who took her career pretty seriously, it was like taking a big chance. No, Toby had just done eggshells and commercials and things like that. So we were all taking a chance, a risk. But it was exciting. And once I committed, I was really glad I did. As, they had a couple of times where they ran out of money. We had to close down. I lost my waitressing job. But, these things occur when you take risks.
Yeah.
And so it was the heat. It was the heat that was the biggest difficulty. It was so hot, and when we filmed those scenes in the van, those went on for 4 days, and the van windows were closed. It was 100 degrees outside, so it was five cast members and 3 crew members in a van.
That's what John said.
Windows rolled up and went for noise, So when they would actually say cut and they'd stop and open the doors, we literally fell out, like, oh my God.
John Dugan said it was so hot there too. He said, he's like, I had to have makeup done over and over and over. He said it was so hot filming that movie.
Oh yeah. I mean, I actually was really glad I had the smallest costume when it came time to get in that van, and I was dressed for the weather at that point. I was glad they chose that costume. So. It was unbearably hot, but we had a big shade tree out in front of the house, and so in between, because there's a lot of sitting around when you're shooting film.
Oh, yeah.
And so, waiting for a cloud to pass by in Texas can be a long wait. And so we had it was a peach tree, and we'd sit under that tree, and we'd get into a hammock, and we would, alternate who got in the hammock. So, we made it through. I was doing a play at night that was really wonderful and had been well received. We were getting standing ovations, and it was The Rainmaker. I was doing it with a guy named Peter Breck, who was, he had been on The Big Valley, and he played one of Barbara Stanwyck's sons, and so that was a lot of fun for me because it's such a fabulous play, and I was on stage for 3 hours, But you can imagine if you start your day out at 7 in the morning and you finish at 11 at night,
Yeah.
You got a long day on your plate.
Oh yeah, definitely. Wow, that's long hours to put in for that too. Jeez.
Yeah, but I was happy and in my element, so it's okay. I was going on adrenaline, I was working as in what I wanted to do.
Oh, yeah, exactly. How did you actually get started into theater, or, was it theater first? Then?
Acting?
Yeah, into acting.
Yeah, I guess I was in junior high, and I was taking private speech lessons because I knew that I wanted to get into acting, and so I did some private speech lessons for about 6 months to a year, and then when I got into high school, I went into a speech class, and after I did a persuasive speech on the death of Medgar Evers, my teacher walked up with tears in her eyes, and the class was all teary-eyed, and she said, "Have you ever thought of going into acting?" And I thought, oh, finally, somebody asked me. So that started, and I did, I went, every weekend or every other weekend, I went to tournaments and brought home all the trophies and stuff. So that was my beginning, and I, did all the school plays and all that stuff. And then I got a scholarship to the Dallas Theater Center affiliated with Trinity and continued on. So I did that just before I moved to Austin. I was, and when I was in Austin, they had seen my picture in the paper with a guy that starred on Gomer Pyle. His name was Frank Sutton. He was the Sergeant Pyle. Over here.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you remember maybe vaguely, you were probably a tot when it was first shown, but you might have seen reruns or something somewhere.
My dad watched it religiously when I remember him hollering, "Paul, get over here!" Yeah, I remember it. So
yeah,
I like the show.
So Kim, I think, saw my picture in the paper, and they called me in to come in and read. So that was kind of fun. And at first I didn't know if I wanted to do it. I just wasn't sure. Of course, I hadn't read the script. They didn't give us any scripts until they actually hired us.
Uh-huh.
So we just had this premise, and, at that time you hear somebody say, yeah, they're going to hang you on a meat hook. And well, there you go.
Now, you gave us some background on your scene. Can you talk about any behind the scenes that you could talk about from the original movie?
Well, let's see. Let's see. What could I tell you? Well, I can tell you that the first day that we met, we all sat down in that house where Sally's grandparents lived,
Mm-hmm.
and none of us really knew each other except Gunnar had lived with a boyfriend of mine, and they had been roommates, and Gunnar had always tried to get him to go out and drink and go have fun and leave me behind. So I didn't like Gunnar that much.
So he left you all
So
behind.
I had no idea. I hadn't seen him in about a year because I'd broken up with the boyfriend, of course, later. And I walked into the trailer, and there was this guy that was as tall as I was sitting down, and we were literally inches away, and I said, what are you doing here? And he said, what are you doing here? So we had to go out and have a cup of coffee. But anyway, it was kind of funny. And then Marilyn and I hung out a lot at first, especially before I was in the play at night. We would hang out, and Bill and I got to be very good friends during the filming of it. And kind of, they didn't have as much time. They had so much going on that we were able to actually discuss our characters and what we thought and, what our intention in the scenes and stuff like that. We took it very, very, very seriously. Everyone did. So for me, that was great. And the only thing was, there was no water anywhere.
Oh, wow.
And they kept talking about us going swimming, and I kept thinking, well, that would be a great idea, But as you saw in the film, there was no water anywhere around there. So
it looked pretty bare from just from the house. That was it. That's all you had. Looked to me like.
Yeah, yeah. And there was that house was actually perfect, where the Leatherface house was actually, perfect. That was, at that time in Austin, it was considered a long way to drive 13 miles, and I drove a motorcycle, and so they forbade me to I was not allowed to ride the motorcycle while we were filming, and that was in my contract.
Oh, wow.
So they would come by and pick me up, or Kim had to come by and get me. But at any rate, it was fun. It was just very long days, and 2 weeks. I know it went into 4 weeks, but then by the time they did pick up shots, I think it was 6 weeks. So I actually missed a 6-week run of a paying job. So for me, it was heartbreaking, not to be able to take a job when I had lost my job to pay my rent. I was just a student, with no funds whatsoever. So it was tough. I like tuna fish, thank goodness.
But at least now, looking back on it, you were part of the, I think, of the cult, one of the most cult classics that you could have ever been part of.
Yeah, I think all the hard work really paid off, and I think Toby had a really wonderful vision, of what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. We may not have known it always at that time, but everybody took the thing real seriously, believe it or not. And, that I think that shows up in the film. And the crew is wonderful, and so I don't, regret a moment of it. It was terrific, and I'm glad I now have a chance to come back out and that people just enjoy it so much, and it's generational. I mean, it's transgenerational. It goes from, we get new fans all the time mm-hmm. that are introduced by their parents or older brothers or sisters, and, so that's kind of interesting. And some of the newer generation, the younger generation, they'll, that one, yeah, that's nothing, because they want more graphic violence, But lots and lots and lots of them still think it holds up and that it's, tremendous. So it'll be interesting to see, because it's so recognized across the world. When I traveled with Italy, it's called Non aprite che la porta. So in order to open up, either a little closed off and don't want to speak English, I would say, oh, do you like film? And they would nod, and I would say, non aprite che la porta. And suddenly they'd be pouring me some wine and wanting to talk, and And then the Germans, believe it or not, I mean, it was banned all across Europe, but it was banned in Germany until last year.
Wow.
And so that's why most of the cast is going over to Germany next March. I think I've already talked to people who are coming from other countries, but I've never been to the UK, and it's a huge, huge thing. It was huge there, and it was banned for 25 years there.
Jeez, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was banned until 1996, so it was banned for 20 years until the head of their film commission stepped down or died, one or the other, and then they immediately brought it on, because a lot of people, had been wanting it. But yeah, all across Europe. In France, I just did an interview for a fellow that found me on Facebook from France. We did that when, just writing. He submitted questions to me and stuff. So that's going to be pretty fun to get to see. I've even had people from the Philippines that were just wild about it.
Wow, that's awesome. Because to actually be known in different countries for your role that you did in the movie, that's pretty amazing. And I didn't know that it was banned. I know it was banned in 2 countries, but I didn't know it was banned in that many. Wow, that's crazy.
It was banned in Italy for 10 years,
Yeah.
in France for 10 years, in Sweden for at least 10 years.
Wow.
Norway, I'm not sure about Spain, but I'm pretty sure it was banned there too. So it was very, very controversial. And that's why when you say it changed everything, it did. It changed everything. There was no Friday the 13th, yet. Mm-hmm. That came soon after, but I believe that Chainsaw opened the door, and it's just so funny how it's referred to all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Toby did a really good job with this, because he introduced a horror character who, was just massive. Gunnar Hansen played Leatherface to a T. I mean, he played the role perfect.
Yeah, he captured what I think Toby was looking for, and he, based it on, of course, the horrible Ed Gein story.
Yeah.
So just as in Psycho, it was based psychologically on that character, but people. Unfortunately, people say, "Oh, yeah, that was a true story," and you can't even convince them, some of them, that it wasn't until you give them the Ed Gein story, and you say, "This is where the story came from." There were no five teenagers, in Texas that, But it's really funny. A little bit of trivia for you.
Yeah,
the
Ed
film
Gein
opens
actually.
Ed Gein. The film of what?
I think Ed Gein was in Nebraska or Wisconsin or Indiana, somewhere like that.
Yeah, Ed Gein was from Plainsfield, Wisconsin.
That's what it was.
Which is just about 200 miles from Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Tiny, tiny little town, and there are all kinds of websites that people can go to find out. It's Gein, Ed Gein. But he was sad, little, and he was very attached to his mother, who was kind of like Carrie's mother, quite religious. And he was isolated with her, especially after his dad died. But the mom ran the family. He had another brother, and that was killed mysteriously. And and there was a fire in the meadow, and Eddie had been out there with him hunting, and so but the brother was burned in the fire. So it was a mysterious death, and they always wondered because the brother had been engaged to someone recently and wasn't buying the mother's stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and so he's leaving, and so it's thought that perhaps Ed had something to do with that death too, but yeah. So
if anyone gets a chance to watch that movie, watch the movie. It's very out there. It's
yes.
What he does when his mother passes away, he actually brings her back to his house and puts her in the bathtub to stay. It's just a morbid movie, but and this is a true movie. This is actually true. It did happen.
Well, so. I'm not sure Ed Gein brought his own mother back.
I thought that he did. I thought he did.
No, I think not. But I'll tell you what. What he did do will horrify people. If you go to the website and you go to the True Crime Library, that's where you'll find out about him. And they'll also have a lot on Wikipedia. Also on Wikipedia, for those avid fans that want to know exactly what happened and how the film got made and why afterward it took so long and the financing problems and all of that. Wikipedia, if you go to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974 Wikipedia page, that has a really, really good in-depth explanation of all of the trials and tribulations. So I recommend that people, go there because it seems fairly factual to me. And Marilyn says the same thing. So she was much more involved in actual planning of the film. They had her in mind when they cast it. So, and probably when they wrote it. So she knows a lot about that part of it. You'll enjoy talking to her. She's a lot of fun, and she loves talking horror. She'll talk it all day long, just like Gunnar will. So,
well, I've enjoyed.
And Ed too. Ed loves doing interviews, so you should definitely try and contact him.
Yeah, I'm going to try to, and I've enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure the listeners out there has enjoyed this because. Guys, we're getting to talk to the main people who's been in these movies, who's been right there to see what happened and went through it. So, Terri, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it. It's been a real pleasure.
And how can people reach out to you if they want to say, hey, Terri, how you doing, and just contact you?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook. It's hard for me to answer everyone, but I try to as much as I can. They can find me on Facebook, but I also have a website, Terri at TerriMcMinn.net, TerriMcMinn.net, and so they can find me there, and I get emails through there. I check my emails a couple of times a week on that site. So they can reach me if they want to order anything. There are folders of my stuff that's the pictures that are available, and I have lots of albums on Facebook, not only from conventions, but chainsaw folders, albums that they can look at. So please contact me. I'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much, John.
You are very welcome, ma'am. You are very, very welcome. This has been an awesome interview. I've been a big fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre ever since the first time I saw it, and ever since my friend's father scared the crap out of me standing out in the field with a chainsaw when I was a little kid.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for all the nightmares I caused you.
Yeah, he really, I didn't want to watch the movie until I got older, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I know. People let their kids see it maybe too young. I know I've seen some scarred individuals. Yeah, and especially if people have tattoos, they need to send me their tattoos, post them on my Facebook page. I'd love to see them.
Nice. But before I let you go, I want to see if you do a promo for the show.
Sure, no problem.
Just say, this is Terri McMinn from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Okay. You ready?
Yep.
This is Terri McMinn, and I'm from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Pam, the girl on the meat hook, and you're watching BODS Mayhem Hour. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, we're going to get back to playing some ghouly music here in a few minutes, but I want to thank Terri for being on the show, and thank you guys for listening. You only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour.
All right.